Hey guys, it's Keegan. I am sitting down to do a video that's a little bit different. I'm just shuffling while I'm talking to you guys. So you might see me look over here. I have some notes over on my monitor, which is just off the screen. I want to talk about 5 things that you could possibly be doing in your relationship that might be causing some problems. I've been away from the channel for a while, as you know, if you are someone who watches my channel. And the reason for that is because I just haven't felt drawn to doing readings the way that I have done them on the channel historically, meaning doing readings that are specific to zodiac signs, trying to get them out every month. I feel like most of the time people who are tuning in to get readings, they're trying to figure out something about a relationship. And my stance on things just in my own personal life is, if you at this point, you know, July of 2020, if you still have questions about where you stand with someone, if you're unsure whether or not you matter to somebody, then odds are like you don't. And I'm not saying that to be harsh. It doesn't mean that you don't matter. It doesn't mean that you don't have worth. It just means stop putting your focus and your efforts and your energy on this person who clearly is not returning it. 2020 as a year has just made me become less and less tolerant of energy not being reciprocated. And so I haven't felt drawn to doing readings that are those traditional, are they going to reach out? Do they care? Are they thinking about you? Because it's like, it should be obvious where you stand, right? Like, the world is chaos right now. So if someone is not reaching out to see if you're okay, if someone is not letting you know that you matter, if someone is not telling you how they feel, if someone is not opening up, if someone is not showing up for you, let that person go. They're not worthy of your time and your efforts and your energy. So that's why I've been away. I wanted to instead try to focus on, if you are in a relationship during this time, or if you have just historically been having issues or problems with relationships, I wanted to come up with a little list of things that might be happening and then pull some cards just to see what wants to come out around that. So I've been shuffling a couple of decks while I've been talking, and I think what I want to do is I'm going to flip you guys over. I'm going to do that really quickly. So I'm going to start with the 5th thing on my list and work my way up. The 5th thing is really around hiding your emotions. And I want to talk specifically a little bit about this, and then I'm going to just see what wants to come out while I'm talking. But hiding your emotions is something that I think a lot of us do in our relationships, where we either feel like we don't want to overwhelm the person with what we're feeling, we don't want to freak them out, we don't want to scare them, we don't want to sound crazy, we don't want to sound like we are projecting old stuff onto them. And so a lot of what we're feeling, we just try to keep it buried inside. We try to not think about it. We try not to let it show. But when our energy, when we're having emotional reactions internally, when we're having emotions that are bubbling to the surface, whether we want to show them or not, they show and they start to impact and cause problems and issues in our relationship. So it's very interesting to me that people would rather not talk about their emotions, not share what they're honestly feeling for fear of judgment, and think that a relationship can grow and bloom and blossom from that. Ooh. And as I said that, we have the Star card coming out reversed. So I'm not going to pull a ton of cards for each of these. I think that this is good. I just want to talk to you guys about that. So the Star card coming out when it's reversed, this is about having a lot of like a lack of faith in something, right? Being in a place of despair. It can also represent there being disconnection that's occurring. And I do feel, I put this card up at the top because not only did it sort of fly out while I was talking and it went on the floor, but I feel like that is the overwhelming and like the bigger energy coming in here in terms of the cards coming out. So how I'm going to connect to this for you guys is, when you're hiding your emotions, when you're keeping your emotions to yourself and you're not sharing those with your partner, what's happening is you are actively creating disconnection in the relationship. You are disconnecting, you're walling off parts of you, walling off aspects of yourself that your partner is not getting insight into, right? you have the Eight of Swords here, and it's very interesting because this is the card that it typically, it's represented with a person who's surrounded by the swords, and it's just victim mentality, right? It's being so trapped in our head that we've made a mental prison for ourselves, and the negative thoughts that we have are overwhelming us. So if you've chosen to listen to this reading, this is saying for sure that being in your head and being so caught up in thinking about what you're feeling and trying to keep it isolated in your own mind is a problem. The Four of Cups here is coming out, and it's very interesting because it's come out with the Queen of Swords reversed. Okay, so this is saying to me, right, like you're in your head about things. You're in your head a lot about things. You're in a place of being disconnected. There's a certain amount of despair that's happening. You've pulled yourself away. You're reevaluating things. There's a bit of contemplation that's happening in your mind, but this Queen of Swords reversed, it's telling me that you're being very cut off, a bit cold, detached, right? And with this card representing the emotions, this is another card that represents just being overly emotional. So this says to me that you're in a situation where you have a ton of emotions. You have a ton of emotions that you're trying to deal with, a ton of emotions that you're trying to process, but you're not speaking on it. You're not being open to that. You're not being willing to let whoever it is that needs to hear where you're at, needs to know what you're thinking, needs to know how you're feeling. You're not letting that person in, and that's causing some problems. Okay, so number 4 on my list in terms of things that you might be doing to cause some problems in your relationship, this is where I put tests and experiments. Okay, so it's doing those things to test to see if I blow up about this, or if I pout, or I sulk, or I pull away, are they going to chase after me? Are they going to come to my rescue, or are they going to notice? I think a lot of times we test our partners, right? Or we run little experiments to see how they respond to certain things, how they, it's almost like seeing if they're able to still love us at our worst, right? But what happens is a lot of times we get trapped in that. We utterly get ourselves trapped in showing our worst, showing our dark, showing the anger, showing the rage, showing the pain as this constant testing to see if the person will stick around, right? But eventually, if all we're offering someone is darkness, if all we're offering someone is, the hard parts of us, right? Oh, we have a bunch of cards that fell out. Yeah. So let's talk about the cards, right? So this notion of trying to soothe our fears of abandonment, or soothe our feelings that we're not worthy, or soothe our fears that we're not lovable with testing someone to see if they will stick around, testing to see if we can trust that, if we have a bad day, that they're not going to walk away, or if we open up about something that's really hard for us or painful for us, that they're not going to leave us, right? What can happen is we get stuck in that constant testing. We constantly need that validation. We constantly need that approval, that proof, right? So this is what's very interesting about these cards that have come out. So you have the Two of Swords reversed here, and this represents a place where we're at an impasse, right? We're avoiding something. We're avoiding making a choice around something. Okay, and it's interesting that the card that came out next is Judgment, which is about being in a place where we are awakening to something. Okay, it's very interesting because these two cards feel like they're attached energetically to me. So this Four of Swords with Judgment, I'm sort of reading them together, because this card is about taking a moment to meditate on something, contemplate something, sort of be in a mode of resting and relaxing. Okay, and it's coming in saying that in doing that, it allows us to be in a place where we can reflect on something and have an awakening. We can listen to something that's being stirred inside of us, right? But what's happened here is within the context of talking about tests and experiments, it's left you in a place where you can't actually get to this because you're stuck in the testing. You're at an impasse. You've created a place where even though this person has proven to you, right, that you can release the fears that you have, you can actually talk about the emotions that you've kept bottled up. This is about the Daughter of Swords here, which is a Page of Swords. This is about communicating, new ways of communicating, communicating the truth around these emotions, right? So all of these 4 cards, right, these are good, right? Taking the time, being awakened, realizing you can actually talk honestly and openly about the things, the emotions that are being stirred within you, right? Releasing the fear around things. But the test and the experiments are causing this where you're stuck. So you're not able to get to any of this. You're not able to get to these things because you've created a situation where you're not willing to just see that you can trust this person. The cards are saying that you can trust this person. So if you are someone who has been running tests and experiments and trying to just get someone to jump through hoops of fire and land on glass for you to prove that they're not going to leave, stop. Stop doing that. Open up to them. Tell them the truth. Start to form that connection, right? Let them in a little bit. So number 3 is kind of, for me, the inverse of number 4. This is guessing games and mind reading. So here's the thing. I don't care how close you are to a person. I don't care how long you've been with them. You might know their quirks and their habits, and you might know them very well, but you can never know what's actually going on inside another person's mind. You can't know what someone else is feeling unless they let you in. Right? So often what we do in relationships is we try to guess and we try to mind read instead of just asking or letting the person talk or trying to show the person that they can let us in, right? Like I said, it's the opposite of what I was talking about earlier, because this is, number 4 is about what we're doing to the other person to have them prove their worth. Number 3 is about us trying to just get in there and guess what's going on with a person instead of just really having the communication and the conversation that we need to have around it. I want to get one more card coming out here. It's very interesting here in terms of guessing games and mind reading, because we have the Ace of Cups coming out as the first card. And the Ace of Cups, when it comes out upright, it represents love. It can represent a new relationship, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's brand new. For me as a reader, the Ace of Cups just represents that sincere, genuine offer of love. Being in a place where you are being sincere and you really do have genuine feelings and emotions for the person, okay? This 8 of Cups here, coming out reversed, this is very interesting because this is a card, again, that is being a place of not really being sure what you want to do. This is maybe trying one more time, maybe walking away, right? It's indecision around a relationship. And the Ace of Swords has come out with this reversed. And this card, the energy around, the reason I want to get one more card to come out is really about this Ace of Swords, because on one hand, it feels very much like there's clarity that's occurring internally for you. But there's also this, there's an energy here about not really knowing if you can trust what you're feeling inside. And that's why I want to clarify this a little bit, because the energy on that is a little bit confusing. Trust this person. Right? If they aren't opening up, if they aren't talking, so here's the thing, right? I'm doing this reading in the context of these 5 things, right, that I wanted to talk to you about. So if you're trying to guess and mind read whether this person cares about you, whether this person is real, whether this person is someone to invest in, Ace of Cups coming out with the Lover, you can trust it. Okay, so if you're with, this is very much that thing of, do I stay with this person or do I walk away? And it feels like the reason you're having that is because you're like, well, I think I know them. I think I understand what they're like. I think I have a good grasp on who this person is. But they're all like, they're also like, they're not opening up to me, and so I'm trying to use my own like psychicness to tune into them and observe everything and try to read into situations. But honestly, that doesn't work, right? Like if you want to know what this person is going through, if you want to know what this person's thinking, you should ask them, right? And if they aren't comfortable talking to you about it, then you need to figure out how to make them comfortable. I just want to see if anything else wants to come out here on this one. You have the Two of Wands coming out upright. This is a card about future planning and progress, right? This is about decisions being made that lead to ultimately towards something being grown and expanded with the Three of Wands, right? So Ace of Cups, Lovers, Two of Wands coming out here. These are all very strong cards, right? So again, stop trying to mind read. Stop trying to guess what this person, is thinking. I think that in this situation, asking them just point blank will probably give them everything they need to open up to you, right? It almost feels like this reading feels very interesting to me because it's almost like both people in this relationship are trying to do the test and experiments and also the guessing and the mind reading, right? It's like a two-way street. And I think once one person stops, once one person opens up, one person stops testing, then the communication is there. With the Lovers coming out with the Ace of Cups, without a doubt, this is something that has potential, okay? So number 2 on my list is lack of communication, which that's what I'm talking about that right now, right? If you're not talking, right? If you're doing all these other things, you're hiding your emotions, you're testing, you're experimenting, you're playing guessing games, communication isn't happening, right? So when you eliminate those first 3 things that we talked about, then you have to look at the fact that you have to talk, right? So let's see what wants to come out around lack of communication. Why is the communication not happening? What can help the communication? Okay, well, we have a card coming out on its side. For me, that usually indicates a block, okay? So we have the Six of Cups coming out on its side. It's very interesting. So the Six of Cups represents a situation in which either someone's looking back on the past, right? If this card is upright like this, then this card represents someone who is looking back on the past and they're looking at it from a place of happiness, right? There's almost a reflection of innocence and joy, almost like a childhood type of reflection back, with fondness. When this card is reversed, it represents someone who is stuck in the past, right? There's a need for forgiveness about something. There is you're spending more time in the past than you are in the present. This card came out on its side as an indication of what's blocking the communication. So it could be that you are sort of going back and forth between looking back at your past with this person or the duration that you've been in this relationship. And on one hand, you're thinking about it in terms of, yeah, this was good and we were happy. And then you sort of get stuck on something that isn't necessarily as joyous or as upbeat or as happy in the past that went on in this relationship. There are things that need to be talked about and things that need to be dealt with. There's forgiveness that needs to happen in this relationship, but it's being avoided. And that's why the communication is not happening. We have another card that came out on its side. Four of Cups is coming out again here. The Four of Cups for me, whether it is upright or reversed, it's not necessarily a bad card in my opinion. I think what's happening here is that you've just been in that pull back and wait mode for too long, right? So you're thinking, you're in your head about the past, you're going back and forth about whether, what needs to be forgiven, what was good, was there more good or bad? We had that Eight of Cups earlier about, do I stay, do I go, do I try again, do I walk away? Ace of Pentacles coming out reversed here. This feels very much like, and you have the King of Wands coming out with it upright. So the King of Wands, what I get immediately from this energetically is around whether or not something has long-term success. Okay, so there's this feeling of there being this lost opportunity. This all ties into this thinking about the past, all of this. So this just feels very, this has been going on for a long time. I just want to say that. This thinking and analyzing and going over the past with like a fine-tooth comb and, there's too many cards. It's like you feel like, you know, is there really, did we, I'm trying to find the words here. The question that's coming through here and the thing that isn't being communicated is there's almost like an uncertainty around, did we actually survive this? Did we actually manage to come out of this, out of all of this from the past? You're stuck in analyzing whether or not you can move forward with long-term success or whether this was a lost opportunity. You know, it's very interesting here. You have the Nine of Cups coming out reversed. And the Nine of Cups reversed is really about focusing in on your own inner happiness. Looking at areas where you're dissatisfied and dealing with them. So the Nine of Cups upright is the card of wish fulfillment, dreams coming true, right? When it's reversed, it just means that the thing that's preventing you from having this card upright is that you haven't actually dealt with what you need internally, your own inner happiness, and dealing with the things that you're dissatisfied about. The communication here has to be about the things that were done in the past that were wrong, the things that were said in the past that were wrong, the things that happened in the past that were wrong. They have to be addressed. They have to be brought to the surface. They have to be talked about, and they have to be forgiven. But when that happens, everything else from this reading indicates that these people do have the potential to have something that's really awesome and amazing. Okay, so that brings me to the number one thing on my list, which is unresolved trauma from the past. And I think that this is one of the things where people really do get stuck. Because part of what has to happen for us to deal with our trauma from the past is we have to actually unpack it ourselves and deal with it. We have to be able to really take a look at the things that have happened in the past and figure out how on earth we're going to deal with it, right? Like, how are we going to heal ourselves? And I think where people get stuck is they get stuck in blaming others. They look at the pain, they look at the disappointment that has happened in the past, and they remove their own role in what occurred, right? So yes, if someone was cruel to you, if someone was abusive towards you, if someone, if you dealt with a narcissist, if you were, someone was spending a large amount of time gaslighting you, but in that situation, you chose to go back, or your friends tried to bring things to your attention and you pushed the friends away, right? Those decisions that you made, those decisions that ultimately were yours, right? Like, those were your decisions. You have to own your role in what occurred. And I think a lot of times people get stuck there. And that's why trauma can actually, it can't actually be healed, and it can't be resolved, and it remains unresolved in our lives, is because we don't want to own our role in it. We don't want to take responsibility for the things that we do have responsibility for. Okay, so that puts us in a situation where we tend to repeat things. We repeat cycles until we can actually learn the lessons that we need to. So I want to see what is going to come out here just around this notion of unresolved trauma from the past getting in the way or causing problems in this relationship. You guys don't want to talk about this. No, it's a big stack. We just want a few cards. You know what? I'm going to actually switch decks. I can sense you guys are reluctant. I'm going to switch the deck here at the end. Show me insight into the trauma from the past What is it? Why is it unresolved that's blocking or getting in the way of this? Why is it being avoided? You have the Ten of Wands coming out reversed. Yeah. So the Ten of Wands, when it's reversed, this is about that feeling of taking it all on ourselves, right? It's carrying the burden. But when this card is reversed, it is an indication that we're willing to actually start to release the feeling of anger about it. So for me as a reader, when the Ten of Wands comes out upright, it's just the acknowledgement that we've had extra responsibility or burden placed on us. When this card is reversed, it's actually about doing what needs to be done, actually carrying that burden with us, releasing what it is that's making things be harder, right? So this is a good sign. It means that whatever that trauma is for you, whatever it is that is that big spooky thing in the back of your mind that is forever going to prevent you from being happy or always be a block for any sort of relationship, it means that it can actually be dealt with, okay? So that makes me happy. Anything else that wants to come out around this? This is interesting because I can feel this is a sore spot that you don't really want to talk about. You had two cards come out here. Yeah. So you have the High Priestess coming out. This really does make me very happy. I think for a lot of you who are listening, the High Priestess for me it is the card that represents the divine feminine. If you're someone who, buys into, twin flame concepts, if that's something that you personally, invest your energy in, then this is a card that represents that for me. It does represent divine feminine. This also just represents really listening to your intuition, tuning into your subconscious mind, really listening to that, being willing to be guided. Then you have the Four of Coins, which has come out reversed. For me, this really just feels like it's talking about self-protection. Part of the reason that you've not dealt with this trauma is because you're just trying to protect yourself from feeling it all again. Because that's the thing, when something is traumatic, for us to actually go through the process of healing it, we really have to confront it head on, which means we basically have to re-experience it. We have to go through it again. So it does make sense why you would be avoiding it. But, the High Priestess coming out with the Ten of Wands just says to me that you definitely can make this work if you're willing to. So we have the Star card coming out with the World. This is, I just want to point out how you have the High Priestess, the Star card, and the World all coming out. 3 of the 5 cards are major arcana. So there's lots of energy here around this. The Star card is very interesting because this feels to me like an issue of not really being able to trust yourself yet, to be strong enough to deal with this. And that's what's causing this to be incomplete, to not close out. The Star card is very interesting because it's a place in which we are, we're feeling so much despair and so much worry, and we're not able to tap into this, right? We're not able to tap into this energy, which is all about like trusting our intuition, having faith in our intuition. We're not able to be there. And so it causes a place where we're just not able to close this out. This is something that can close out, though. This is absolutely something that can close out. With the High Priestess coming out with the Ten of Wands, I know for sure that if you do focus on this, whatever this is for you, like we all have trauma, we all have things from our past, we all have pain that we've gone through. And this just means that whatever that is for you, there is totally the possibility for you to be able to confront it and deal with it. Now, I do have the deck, another deck here. I just want to see if anything wants to come out of this deck, just as final insight or advice, anything else that wants to come out for you if you've stuck around with me here to the end. I do sense just that a lot of what's happening is just, it's insecurity and fear that it's not grounded in anything that's based on reality, right? Not saying it doesn't feel real, because I think it absolutely does, but this is a person that you can trust. This is a person that you can open up with. This is a person that you can. So the Magician coming out, You know, and earlier you had the high priestess. Let me see. I don't think I shuffled these in. Right? Did I shuffle these? I might have with these. Yeah. So I would just want to say here, the magician, the high priestess, this is a coupling. This is a divine coupling. Earlier you had the lovers, you had the ace of cups. It's very interesting because what I want to say is that oftentimes when a relationship is something that is divine, when it is something that has some sort of a purpose where both people are going to be forced to grow and expand in order to come together, to be in a relationship together, and something that is sustainable, there is a lot that happens, right? It pushes us, it challenges us, it makes us have to go into those darker aspects of our experience in our life and confront those things, right? So I have to say here, if you watch my readings, if you're one of my subscribers and you watch me regularly, you know that this particular card, if this card ever comes out reversed, it's a very, very bad sign for me as a reader. So when it comes out upright, it's as equally powerful of a meaning as when it's reversed. Coming out as, is there anything else that wants to come out? When this was the main thing that came out previously to it, I just have to highlight that for you guys, okay? And I actually think that's where I want to end, but I'm gonna go through one more time to see if anything else wants to come out for you. Is there anything else that wishes to be revealed? Any advice or guidance, any additional insight? I don't think one flipped, but I'm gonna look to see for you guys. Ooh, that one wanted to come out. So here's how I'm going to look at this, because I think that this came out earlier, right? Remember, I know this did come out for you guys earlier. The thing that's preventing these two people from being together, both of these cards came out upright. There's nothing, really that's going on here where either of these people are out of alignment within themselves and causing this connection to not be able to be there. What's happening here is this confusion about not trusting that inner clarity that you have about this person, that they are the right person for you, that you can trust them, and dealing with that confusion or clouded judgment or just that questioning about that. This card, when it came out earlier, I think I said this, I feel it again. It's this confusion right around, well, I think I know them. I think I can trust this. I think I can open up. But then actively choosing to hide your emotions, to test and experiment, to play guessing games and mind read, to not communicate openly, and to not deal with those traumas. This is the type of relationship where these two people being open and honest about the trauma from the past can actually help heal one another. Now, it doesn't mean that you heal the other person, right? You have to heal yourself. But talking to this person and being able to have their love return to you, even when you are talking about those things that are super painful and super challenging, that can allow you to forgive yourself, to own your own responsibility and things that have happened in the past, to realize that you have grown, that you have evolved, that you do understand things better now. Okay? So I'm going to flip you guys back here. Please let me know what you thought about this reading. I wanted to try something a little bit different. I actually really enjoyed that, so I hope that you guys like it when you see it. And for whoever this resonated with, congratulations, because I think that you've found someone who is, potentially really, really good for you. And so I'm hoping that you will look at those 5 areas where you can strengthen your relationship and remove some of those things that might be causing some problems, and actually really dive into this and explore it, because I think it's something that's really good. So go into the comments, let me know if this resonated with you guys. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're in a relationship, send this to the other person and have them listen to it, or share it with a friend if you think that might be beneficial to them. And just congratulations, honestly. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.